Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an Awards Watch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them, and maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at Awards Watch, and joining me, as always, is the Sonny to my Cher, my co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
Ryan, today we make a bold decision as a podcast. We decide to cover a film that is out of print, not on any streaming services, not even on paid video on demand. We're talking about a movie that's almost impossible to watch in the year 2025. We're talking Silkwood, a very, very weirdly important movie in the career of Mike Nichols, and a movie that I'm pumped to talk about.
Jay, do you think the reason why it's out of circulation is because the company covered it up?
They don't want you to see it.
They don't want you to see it. They don't want you to watch it. They don't want you to own it, and they don't want Meryl to get any credit. And I think that that's wrong.
I think after Black Hat, everybody was like, we can't talk about nuclear energy.
I'm going to Washington, D.C. right now to talk about it. This is bullshit. Like, it doesn't make sense not to go on a tangent already at the top.
Yeah, we're
of
off
this
to
episode.
a very silly start of
very silly for a very serious movie. But the fact that, like, this is one of many people, including our guests that we'll get to here in a second, favorite Meryl Streep performances. It's just like a very important film in her filmography.
It's also the first movie Mike Nichols had made in 8 years.
Exactly. And Mike Nichols, very popular director. Like, and it's got Cher, it's got Kurt Russell, it's got this ensemble cast that we'll talk about. And it's written by Nora Ephron. And this movie doesn't exist. Like, you can't find it anywhere. Like, full disclosure, we had to do. Well, speaking of Black Hat, we had to go to the dark web.
You don't have to go mask off on that.
Yeah, we did it. And I feel fine about it. I'm not angry about it, because it was literally a couple of days ago. I was like, I've seen this movie. But I want to rewatch it. I want to have it fresh for the show. And then couldn't find it anywhere. So I was mad texting Jay, we got to find the link to this movie. We got to do it right now. And luckily we did, because we're here to talk about Silkwood.
Yeah.
And our guest today, we're not doing this alone. We can never do this alone. Our guest today is a first-time guest, and we're so excited to have them on the show. From Be Kind Rewind, Izzy.
Hello.
Welcome to Director Watch. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. I'm so excited. I had some Russian help with this. Finding this movie.
Okay.
We'll say that.
Right. We're in good company.
Yeah.
You don't own it.
I do not own it. No.
I do not feel good about giving a second-hand seller $70 for this movie.
I
am at peace with I watched this film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love physical media to death. It's sometimes the thing that, I mean, we were talking about it before the podcast. It's like the thing that can calm me down, spending a bunch of money that I shouldn't on things that I probably shouldn't buy, but I want to anyway. The fact that, yeah, it was like $90 on
Aren't
eBay.
The rights to this owned by Disney? Why is this not?
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
it goes back to my original point. Izzy, are you a big physical media person?
I am very sparing with physical media purchases. I really, really need to be invested in it to get it. And that's less out of a belief in physical media and more out of, I live in an apartment in New York City and I don't have a ton of space.
Fair enough.
That's fair enough.
You know, I do occasionally get things that I will need for research or whatever, but it's not a impulsive buy type object for me.
By the way, what's the stupidest piece of physical media you own?
Like the stupidest?
Like, it's just like the most embarrassing movie you own. I know what mine is.
Oh, well, you go first. I have to think about it.
I mean, mine is Cowboys and Aliens. I don't know why I own that movie.
Oh, are we just talking about like, oh, okay. That's not how I thought you were aiming the question.
No.
I thought you were aiming the question, what's the stupidest, like biggest purchase I've ever spent?
Oh, you mean like super expensive? Well, that's also one. Yeah. I don't think I've ever gone over like $35, except for like a box set or something.
Oh, I thought you meant like in one
like
purchase.
For a single movie. Oh, you mean, I mean, my Criterion sales occasionally get out of control, although I've been very good recently. Again, it's called having a 2-year-old.
Yeah, that's fair. We've kind of grown up. I mean, I once spent, I can't believe I'm going to admit this. I once spent $250 on a Blu-ray.
Wow.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
How is that
Like a
possible?
single?
Yeah. It was secondhand too.
What was it?
Was
Well,
it
it was,
made of gold?
it's one of those where like, I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do it. And then your just finger just presses it. And then you're like, it's mine now. The Third Man on Criterion that were out of print for years. And I wanted it. I love that movie. And Jay knows I have way too many Criterions
He's
in
a
my
fiend for
I'm a fiend for
Criterions.
it. And it's my one hey, it's my one vice, and my wife says that's okay. At least it's not boats, hunting, or other stupid shit that it could be. Movies are okay. And so that's probably the most expensive just single item I have.
That is absolutely ludicrous. I
I
can't
know
believe
it
we're
is.
just like brushing it off. That.
Well, we are. We're gonna just move on. But I mean, like I've bought. I mean, like the most ridiculous movie that I own. Oh, that's Izzy. Do you have one? Do you have like a ridiculous movie that you own that you're like, yeah, who gives a
I
shit?
don't think I own anything that people would be surprised that I own. It's like mostly Criterion editions
Okay.
of stuff like, you know, um, what's the last one I bought? I think I bought the All About Eve one, the last
Oh,
sale.
oh, there you
Yeah, it's
go.
stuff like that. Like it's
Well,
all
it's like
very obvious.
like
Yeah,
one of the best movies of all time. Of course, you're
yeah,
gonna just buy it,
of
right?
course.
I think I own some DVDs from way back when, and I own like you guys remember the original Daredevil with Ben Affleck and
Yeah, of
Jennifer
course.
Garner?
Brought back for
Mhm.
the classic film Deadpool and Wolverine.
There you go. Well, I own Elektra, which is
Oh,
the
Nice.
even more
spinoff.
important
Yeah,
to the
even
film Deadpool and Wolverine.
exactly. Yeah, so I had that knowledge, I guess, for that movie. Like, I guess like that was the first movie I thought of,
I
but
also,
also I
for
got
some
some
reason,
new
own
stuff.
Despicable Me 2.
Do you own one and three and four?
No.
Looks
There
like
are four of those. Wow.
well,
And
there's
two Minions films.
two Minions,
Oh my
so there's
God.
six. Izzy, I
I'm
don't
waiting for
know.
the
I'm
Be
not caught
Kind
up.
Rewind Despicable Me essay.
I know
I'm
this is
just gonna say, I think that that's the
my
next
blind spot.
video,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Yeah. And but anyway, we'll get off physical media talk. We don't have to talk about that. We're
Yeah,
here to talk
great,
about
great
stuff.
start.
We're a wonderful start to this podcast. Izzy,
Hmm.
thank you for being here to talk about Mike Nichols, a very important filmmaker for all of us. I'm going to start by just asking you a blanket question. Um, what's your relationship with Mike Nichols? What are some of the films you love from him? Maybe some of the films you don't. And are there things about his films that you really gravitate towards, or maybe don't gravitate towards? And before when we'll do that before we get into talking about Silkwood.
Yeah. I mean, I think I pretty much share the majority opinion on Mike Nichols, which is that he's great. Um, I don't know when exactly I first learned who he was. I mean, I feel like when I was growing up and sort of becoming a cinephile as like a kid or a teenager in the 2000s, um, that was when I feel like he was kind of on like the Charlie Wilson's War era, like that, like Angels in America. I started learning about who he was from that. Like, I don't, he must have been on Oprah or something, and that must be how I originally found out who he was. Um, but I don't think I did I think I sort of consumed his work like passively in the sense that like I'd see the Birdcage or I'd see postcards from the Edge and never like put them together as part of a singular director's vision until probably a few years ago when I read the Mark Harris biography and I just started to like rewatch everything that he'd done kind of in order to understand him better as a filmmaker. Obviously, like I understand the importance of like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at it within the context of like Elizabeth Taylor's career or The Graduate in terms of its like new Hollywood importance. But I enjoyed that book as like putting them under this umbrella of this filmmaker who kind of can do so many things and has, I think, a lot of versatility that maybe isn't celebrated as much as it could be. Obviously, I think my favorite thing about him is his sense of humor. Um, Movies like The Birdcage, Postcards from the Edge, Silkwood, even, which I'm sure we'll get to, like have such a witty sense of humor about them. Of course, he comes from the improv comedy scene, like the origins of it. So that's kind of what I appreciate him about him the most, and also the way that he works with his actors. I think he gets incredible work out of his actors. So yeah, those are the things I appreciate about him the most, probably.
I think you're absolutely right. Like that's the sort of era. I remember him getting the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award,
Hmm.
and you have like Robin Williams and Meryl Streep and all these great figures coming up on stage and talking about one, how funny this guy is, but also just how important he is to their careers and filmographies and sense of taste and on stage and on screen, and how he works so well with actors. Like that's the number one thing. Like it might be weird to like jump from film to film and you're like, why is it that he's doing these projects? And it's like, well, um, one, he's interested in them, just like any other director would be, but then he's able to just pull these performances out of people that are just incredible. And it
He
can
also
be,
likes money.
he also likes money. Who doesn't like
Sure
money?
does.
Um, and, um, and yeah, that Mark Harris book, which Jay, you've been reading,
Yeah,
throughout
it's
this year.
great. Yeah,
It's
I've
great.
loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
And,
good.
but Jay, before
Yeah.
we get Izzy's thoughts on Silkwood and get our overall thoughts and really dive into Silkwood here, we have to do some catch up because our last episode we talked about carnal knowledge, and now we're talking about Silkwood. But there was movies in between.
There
Jay,
sure were.
there sure were some movies. And Izzy, Jay is the completist on this podcast,
Hmm.
and I assume Jay has watched the three films in
There's
between.
two. Well, there's two. I didn't watch the Gilda
You don't.
Radner comedy special, but
Wow,
the
rude.
two narrative feature films I did watch, and they are pretty agonizing.
Well, let's start with 1973's Jay's favorite movie so far of 2025 that he's had to watch. The Day of the Dolphin.
I mean, just a calamity. Like, just I mean, Izzy, have you seen it? Yeah,
I've seen that one. I haven't seen The Fortune,
yeah.
which I've heard is worse, potentially. Like at least Day of the Dolphin has a funny conceit, like even if it's bad, you know what I mean?
Day of the Dolphin, it does have a funny conceit, but it is played like deadly seriously.
Right.
It is crazy how seriously they take that film. For people who don't know, this is a film about English-speaking dolphins who try to assassinate the president of the United States.
If only a plot like that could exist
in
today.
2025, that would be a Jason Statham movie. However, in 1973, it was a George C. Scott movie. And honestly, he's kind of good. He's very committed to treating this movie very seriously. He does what he's asked to do very well. And additionally, if this movie is known for one thing, it's its tagline, which is unwittingly, he trained a dolphin to kill the president of the United States, which is in like big bold letters on this poster.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Mike Nichols hates it. He calls it the fish movie. Horrible experience. Apparently George C. Scott was going on like days long benders where he disappeared from set. It's absolutely ridiculous, but not in a fun way. It's actually really dry and dull. So don't watch it. I mean, don't watch it. I do this to myself on a regular basis. But do not watch this film.
I don't know.
I will say that.
I don't know if Statham's the comp.
Well, I just think they would. I think that's how they would frame the movie. Is like it would be like Cocaine Bear.
Oh, like the Megalodon movie that he did?
Yeah, like Sharknado.
The Meg.
Yeah, the Meg.
Sharknado.
I think if they did something like this, it feels like Statham would pass and they give it to John Cena. And
it was so bad.
What
Pauline
was the-
Kael literally said he should stop making movies.
What was the movie about the shark in Paris that just came
The
out?
Shark in Paris.
Shark in
there was like a
Paris.
shark in the
Oh,
Seine.
there was. Oh, I can't remember what it was
Is
called.
that the
though.
Olympics?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Basically.
Basically, those people better have
Because
enjoyed
I
those
think
medals
part of the movie is that they're swimming in there,
in
and
the
then in
in.
the Seine, and then there's like a shark somehow. I didn't
I
watch it,
I
obviously.
cannot believe they made Olympic athletes swim in that disgusting,
Yeah, it's crazy.
just travesty
I
of
mean,
water.
speaking of Silkwood, it literally feels like Silkwood.
It does
They're
because they
like,
were
it's
like,
acceptable levels of E. coli.
and I just oh my God,
It was called Under Paris.
Under Paris.
Yes.
Okay,
There you go.
well,
Haven't seen it.
we'll have to have Izzy back on to talk about Under Paris. Yeah, The Day of the Dolphin, not a glowing recommendation from Jay, but Jay, there's one more, and it's the
Yeah,
it's
there
the
is.
fortune.
And I want to, before that, I want to mention one thing that is
Okay.
fascinating. He turned down some crazy movies during this.
Oh, really?
So he did Carnal Knowledge, obviously, with Nicholson.
Mhm.
Nicholson approaches him a few years later. He's like, Mikey, I got this amazing script from Robert Town. It's a detective movie called Chinatown. And Mike Nichols is like, no, thank you. I don't want to direct that.
Wait, what?
He could have
turned down
directed Chinatown, and he said no. Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah.
And then the other big one that he turned down, he was like the first guy that they approached for it. And I can't imagine him making this. I'm honestly glad this didn't happen. The Exorcist.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Oh,
we
yeah,
did.
that needs a crazy person.
Yeah.
That needs a Friedkin for sure.
That needs.
He turned it down
Billy
because he had a
Friedkin.
7-year-old, and he was like, I cannot imagine coming to set and be like, let's torture this girl today.
That's fair.
So he turned it down. Yeah.
Well, no, that's fair. I do think when we talked about Freakin' last year, I do remember that. So
Yeah.
and Freakin', that's just the right choice, because you just need, like Izzy said, you need a wild man. You know, you
You need a maniac for
need a
sure.
maniac.
I don't think Mike Nichols would be slapping people on set.
I think it, well, and I love Mike Nichols, but like, there's just something about, like, if the controversy would have started happening, I feel like maybe he would have, like, I don't know, you guys want to like take a crack at this and edit this a little bit. Like, I don't know if he would have given, I don't know. That movie would not be the movie it is.
No.
It feels,
No.
that would.
But
not
honestly,
be.
that it kind of broke him after Day of the Dolphin came out, like a month after The Exorcist came out. And it was obviously a massive hit, critically acclaimed. And he was like, man, I gotta figure out what's going on. And so what did he
that's
decide
back
to do?
back.
He made another crummy movie.
I mean,
called
it's really
The
crazy.
Fortune.
I was thinking about this watching Silkwood again. It's like he basically misses an entire, like, maybe the most vibrant decade of American filmmaking.
Mhm.
Like,
And
he
it
just
killed
is
him.
not there.
Yeah.
Which is
Imagine
wild.
all your contemporaries are killing it
Mhm.
at
Matt
this time.
Altman. Yeah, like all those guys.
I mean, then there's
Especially
Francis Ford
Catch
Coppola.
22.
Yeah.
Catch 22 coming was like right after MASH or right
Mhm.
before MASH.
Yeah, that's tough. He said in
That
the
sucks.
biography they lay out like Altman had the career that I thought I would have. Like
Yeah.
specifically Altman.
And Allman made
Yeah.
like 20 movies in the 70s. You know what I mean? And they're most.
Yeah, he was
I'm
making, like,
Well,
exaggerating.
they
one
kind of
and a
like
half a
trade.
year.
They like trade fortunes almost.
Yeah,
because
because
it's like Altman can't really work in a typical studio system, and then Nichols seems to kind of like thrive in that, like making these very palatable, easily consumable movies. Like even though they're good, it's like nobody's being like, nope, regarding Henry's too controversial.
well, it's also too, like, Altman's killing it in the 70s. This is like the Altman that we know.
Yeah.
And he's struggling. And then in the 80s, Altman becomes a ghost. Like, he has Popeye, and then that movie. Wow, I love Popeye. Everybody knows I love Popeye.
I actually like Altman's 80s. He did
I
some,
know, but to make money and for the studios and everything. No.
but he had to make plays on film. Is
Exactly
basically what he had to do.
And
Yeah.
Mike Nichols became Mike Nichols.
Mike Nichols, after The Fortune, started making plays on Broadway.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
Exactly.
But The Fortune is also terrible. And there is some like zaniness to it. It's so crazy that a movie starring Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson is just sort of lost to time. But
and Stalker Channing. That
Yeah.
was in like the
Yeah.
few
Yeah, that was her.
Yeah.
Apparently, Nicholson and Beatty got paid $1.5 million, and Stalker Channing got paid $20,000. So,
Sick.
great. we're doing.
And the budget was 3.5, so they got 2 million. No, they got 3 million of the. Well, that's probably not how it worked, but anyway, God,
I don't
you
know if
know,
you know what The Fortune is about. It's about these people in like Prohibition era who both want to marry this woman across state lines and then kill her for her money. And it's like a zany comedy.
mm, yeah.
It
So,
honestly, I think it's better than Day of the Dolphin, but
so you think it's going to get
it's still not
remade
very good.
today?
Believe it or not, that conceit doesn't really lend itself to a Elaine May, Mike Nichols style comedic endeavor. But
Yeah.
and it was an absolute disaster at the box office. And then in another twist of fate, Jaws came out a month after that. So he's just getting massacred by The
Very.
Exorcist and then Jaws. Um, and then he just goes into like it's disastrous for him. I mean, he tried to make this movie with Robert De Niro shortly after that, where he just hated Robert De Niro, and he was like, "Let me get a new actor." And then the studio watched the dailies, and they were like, "I got a better idea. Let's just not make this movie anymore." And then he retreated back to Broadway. Um, I mean, 8 years went by, and then I won't like dwell on everything that happened in those 8 years, but some movies that he either worked on or turned down. Melvin and Howard, he was like making, like he almost made that movie. And then he wanted Elvis to play Howard Hughes, and then he died, and he was
That would
like,
have
I don't
been
know that I
so.
can make this movie
That
anymore.
would have been really good though.
It would have been, but I love the Demi version. I'd
Yeah.
love the Demi
Yeah.
version. Um, he briefly worked on The Jerk, the Steve Martin film, another movie I love, but isn't particularly. I don't think the direction is what really makes that movie. I think that movie could have worked. He was going to adapt a chorus line, a film adaptation of a chorus line.
I wish he'd have done it instead of Richard Attenborough. I'll tell you that. That's a disaster.
Yeah.
And he was the first choice to direct Sophie's Choice.
So he was the choice.
He was the choice, but
Okay.
he like
Titular
he
choice.
so he I mean he was born in Germany, and he was like I literally don't think I'm mentally and emotionally capable of directing that movie. Um so he just did a bunch of theater,
So
and
he kind of
everybody
pushed that
loved the
aside.
theater that he was doing. Made a ton of money by being a consultant on Annie on Broadway.
There you go.
And then maybe the most interesting thing he did was he was starring in a production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Elaine May, which sounds amazing. And they were going to do 6 weeks on it. And then Elaine May got pneumonia, and they were just like, let's call it. No,
Well,
thank
do we
you.
think that pneumonia was real? Because that very much just sounds like Elaine May just not wanting to do it anymore,
Well, look,
which would be very Elaine
with
May.
both Elaine May and Mike Nichols, you have to take their stories with a grain of salt for
Yeah.
sure. But either way, it stopped after 6 days. They had recast the Martha role, and Nichols was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then through all that time, and even with Sophie's Choice, he ends up back in '83 with Meryl for Silkwood, which is what we're here to talk about today. So, Izzy, um, ask you, I know that you love this movie. And so, upon the rewatch, how was it for you? And what do you love about Silkwood the most?
Okay, well, rewatch was great actually. Sometimes I don't know if you two have this problem, but sometimes when I know that I liked a movie the first time, I'm very hesitant to revisit it because I'm like, but what if I hate it? Especially if it's something I watched a long time
That
ago.
happens all the time.
Or it's
Yeah,
just like, well, I love it so much. Let me just look and see if there are flaws that I didn't notice before.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. I was a little bit worried about that with Silkwood because I haven't seen it in a while, I would say. For that reason. It's like I just know I love it. It's like I don't need to see it again. But I think watching it this time, I appreciated it for different reasons. Partially just because like we're in the middle of award season, and I'm thinking a lot about like the ways in which people choose to tell stories. And so for this time around when I was watching it, I just really loved the way that Karen was written. the way she's kind of like this crusader and the hero of the story, the protagonist, but she's also extremely flawed. She's not necessarily doing things we want her to do all the time. She's not being lionized necessarily. And seeing Meryl Streep play that kind of character is really fulfilling to me, I think. Like having her have all of these sort of rough edges that she's sort of working throughout the story in her personal life as well as professionally are really interesting to me. Um, so this is my favorite Meryl Streep performance, which is maybe a bold thing to say, but I do just love when she kind of is able to peel back some of the like hardcore character work that she does in a lot of her films and be very naturalistic, just kind of leaning on that style. And that's something that this film really brings out in her. It also, I think, is like a very conscious choice on behalf on Nichols's part. Like this is very much more naturalistic and rural and um, not kind of like that witty repartee that he was known for or like bringing out in his work in the past. And so I like that they're kind of going to this like place of naturalism together and seemingly bringing the best out of each other through it. So that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking about.
Jay, I don't know. Was this the first time watch for you?
This was a first time watch. I had not seen
Okay.
it before.
All right. Well then what do you think about it, buddy?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, there to Izzy's point, there is this naturalism that didn't really exist before in Nichols's prior films. And there is a part of me that's like, was that his admiration for Robert Altman? He's not exactly doing just set up three cameras and let them go, but he's definitely letting things flow in ways that he hadn't really done before, while still maintaining sort of a strict-ish formalism that I think he had been known for to that point. And he was letting the actors kind of come up with quirks for their characters as the film went along. And he's always been a guy that performers love to work with, and I think that's a big reason why. But I mean, it's absolutely a casting coup. This is Cher's first kind of big, serious performance in a film. Kurt Russell, who I would say largely is just asked to be pretty hot, which he's very good at.
There's
So
nothing
to
wrong.
be clear,
There's nothing wrong
no,
with that. Like,
no, he's very good at it.
you can say that, and that could have been just been the whole movie. Like we would have been fine.
But he was basically at this point what? He was the Carpenter guy and the Disney pretty boy was
Yeah.
kind of still what he was at this point. And then Streep is just remarkable. Rocking just one of the worst haircuts you've ever seen. But her performance is just amazing. Her ability to be both incredibly charming but also incredibly off-putting at times. I accidentally, like truly accidentally, my wife was just like, let's watch Aaron Brockovich like 3 days before I watched this movie. And I said, that's a great film that you can put on at any time. I would love to do that. And obviously, watching this, you can't not think of that if you've seen Aaron Brockovich recently. And I was just thinking about what are the differences between this film and that film. This movie is harder to watch, and it is acidic in ways that Aaron Brockovich is not. Aaron Brockovich is a total crowd pleaser, but I feel the Nora Ephron in this film, where her movies can be incredibly charming, but also have this cynicism to them. And this is an incredibly cynical movie for the most part. Obviously, the ending being, and it is a real story, but focusing on that ending is maybe the greatest example of that. But in addition to that, you do have these Nichols touches where it's like, this is very fun at times. It has this kind of uh, fun banjo score to it. And you have these characters with these fun quirks and really great lines of dialogue that are genuinely laugh out loud funny. And just the roster, the supporting actor roster of this movie, it's just crazy. You go down the line, David Strathairn in like a completely unrecognizable long hair look. It's and I could go on and on. Will Patton is kind of one of my like guys, Will Patton is one of the actors that I like more than anybody else likes. And he's in like one scene of this
Got one
movie.
of my
But
guys in it too. Got Bruce
who's your
McGill.
guy? Oh
Bruce
yeah, Bruce
McGill.
McGill. I
I
mean, come
love
on.
Bruce McGill.
You put
That's
Bruce
like
McGill in a
in anything,
in the
anything.
between this and God, the Michael Mann movie, The
The
Insider.
Insider, my favorite Michael Mann movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like put him in a corporate greed, like exploitation movie. Although in that one he's the lawyer. But
Yeah. Wipe that
this
smirk off your face. That's my favorite thing. Anytime it's on like Twitter, I'm like, well, I'm sorry, honey. I'm gonna watch this 3 minutes of some of the best acting I've ever seen in a courtroom in my life.
amazing stuff. It's a really great, at times powerful, at times very charming. It kind of runs the gamut of feelings that you can evoke with the film. So I was really impressed by it.
I had seen it before. It had been a while, like a long while, and that's why I was kind of like in your boat, Izzy, where I was like, I remember really liking it, and I love Meryl, and I was like, man, though, is it gonna be one of those where we get on this podcast and we're talking about it and it just doesn't age well at all, or are there's just aspects because it is one of those. It is a to your point, Jay. It feels like a movie that feels like a touching stone for any sort of investigative or fighting the system sort of film that we see nowadays. I know like Norma Ray is another example too of this, where you're like, these are movies that are very influential on the movies that we're watching. But as
Nora
I watched,
Ephron, former journalist.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so when I watched this, though, I didn't really actually. Good thing I didn't watch Aaron Brockovich because I do love that movie as well. But I was weirdly thinking of like this movie is the inverse of a movie Jay you and I like, and Izzy, I don't know if you like it as well, but Todd Haynes's Dark Waters. I was thinking a lot of that movie in terms of that's a movie where it is about this small community. It that takes the side of going through that story through the lawyer's perspective rather than mostly through the victim's perspective or somebody on the inside's perspective. And at the end of it, feeling very hopeless. Like at the end of that movie, you feel very hopeless, and you go through the sort of same ordeals of the same filings and the same information, and see the taxing toll that it takes on that family. And in this film, you see, I think purposefully what Nichols does is show the mundanity and yet the dangers of this job and going back to it over and over again. And as she is fighting for, as she's fighting this company, she's also, there's a harsh reality of like, she's fighting this company, but needs this job. She needs it for her kids. She needs it to live. In the weight of that, of every single worker in the eyes, the way Nichols uses everyone's looks as these just sharp examinations on Karen throughout the entire film. And, this originally was by the executive producers, it was going to be with the idea of Jane Fonda, which totally makes sense at the time of Jane making a movie like this. Like this is right up her alley as well. But there's just something about Meryl doing this that I think that provides. I wouldn't say like it doesn't go over the top or it doesn't feel like the movie's preaching. You really ground this in character because Meryl is able to just navigate through characters better than I think anyone, mostly anybody that we can ever, see on screen, and provides this sort of real raw vulnerability of this woman who
There's
is
such integrity.
yeah. There's just something like you feel that she's done the time and the research and she's slipped into this woman's life. And I think it's one of Meryl's best performances as well. It's not my favorite of hers. I'd still say that's some Bridges. I like those Bridges of Madison.
It's right up there with It's Complicated.
Yeah. Oh, you think it's up there with It's Complicated?
Yeah, Izzy, we covered It's Complicated like 5 episodes ago. I think.
Nice.
So we're like really on a
Nice.
Meryl kick right now. But there's just all the little moments like when there's just something about like that in the last 5 to 10 minutes when Meryl gets in the car and she's looking at Kurt Russell and as an audience, like we all know where the story's going at this point. And but yet there's just the way she's able to just sell little moments, and also so like those moments where you feel extremely tense. Like I felt extremely tense watching this movie of like drawers being open or her putting gloves on or her doing her job. There's just all these little things that sound didn't need to be raised. The camera didn't need to shake. It's just trusting your actor to embody this person and the severity of the situation around it. And the only time when the volume does raise is when the alarms go off because of the radiation, obviously.
Or that last shower is intense.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Crazy.
But no, I just yeah, this movie is great. It was a harder watch this go around than it was the first time, honestly.
I didn't find it to be a terribly hard watch, I'll be honest. Except for that, really, it was only that one scene and then probably the ending. The when she's cooked for what, the third time. And
I will say I did laugh when they were like, Thelma's cooked, and I was like, just because it's slang now, that I was like, oh, that's actually kind of funny.
it is a when you do hear it, you're like, kind of a funny expression, especially in the modern context, but
exactly
not funny in practice.
Not funny.
No,
actually,
not funny in practice, guys.
That's me being inappropriate.
No, but
Izzy, this is a very serious podcast.
Yeah, it's a very serious podcast. What have you been? We've been on here 30 minutes already. We've been very serious this entire time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, Meryl's great in this.
I mean, if you just think about the fact that this is like a 1-2 punch with Sophie's Choice, like, can you even imagine?
Controversial opinion,
Like,
maybe by some
crazy.
people. I think this is miles better than Sophie's Choice. I'm not a big.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
What was the one before that? The Deer Hunter? Did she do anything else between?
Oh, that's good. Oh, are we doing it? Are we doing it? Are we going?
Is this the second Meryl rabbit hole in the last 5 episodes?
In the last 5 episodes, I don't think our fans are not going to hate it. Let me find her filmography.
Meryl she really is. I was sort of like come on, like chill out with the Meryl stuff. Like, and then in the last few years, as I've watched more of her films, like more of where it's like, this is a 4 out of 10 on paper raised to a 7 out of 10 just by Meryl's like force of will. It's just she's so good in pretty much everything except the laundromat.
So she gets her big screen debut in Julia, 1977. She has The Deer Hunter in 78. 79 is a big year for her. She has Manhattan and Kramer versus Kramer, which she wins.
I definitely missed some stuff.
Which she wins the Oscar for.
Yeah.
And so then
French Lieutenant's Woman, I think. Yeah.
Is in 81. Yep. And that's her follow-up. And then 82 is Still of the Night and Sophie's Choice, which she wins her second Oscar. So she wins her second Oscar in 5 years, which is crazy. And then she would go on for nearly 30 years to not get one. But then, yes, this is right after her. This is her follow-up to her Best Actress win for Sophie's Choice, which is that's insane. It's also like, what's the equivalent of that now? Like,
I mean, the closest one I can think of is like the Blue Jasmine Carol double header.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
But like,
I mean,
but this is all within like the first 6 to 7 years of someone's career.
Yeah.
You just don't do that anymore.
It's really unique,
you know? Because at least with Kate, like she had been in the business for like, at least 15 years.
A little bit of the Emma Stone thing, although she was a little bit older.
Yeah, I mean,
she
like
wasn't right out of the gate. I mean,
like Emma Stone's like late 2000s, and then she wins in 2016, right? And then
I'm just thinking of people that won that close together.
Yeah, no, I mean, like even when Frances won her 3 billboards and for Nomadland, we're talking about like a veteran actress at this point.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean like winning close? I thought you meant.
Well, not even just. Well, just like
I was thinking. I mean, I guess the real comp is like right out of the gate, just shooting to the moon.
Yeah. Just like right.
Like
I mean, I think they might have just done that more back then than they do now. Like,
Yeah.
We just don't have that anymore because like clearly they all knew, like you hear the stories about Meryl from like Jane Fonda and from other contemporaries. Because when I listened to Fonda talk about her, I think for a Lifetime Achievement Award, she was just like, from the minute I knew, like this is, like this girl's got something, and I think they all knew too. And she from 77 to 83 here, she is slowly building to where she is like, I am going, I'm a supporting character. I'm supporting. Okay, I'm a co-lead, and I want a supporting to where I'm leading films now, and now I'm the top bill because people know me. And then, therefore, by this point, with Nichols, who's a fairly well-known director at this point, it's like, okay, she's the. This is the second time I think like Sophie's Choice would be that also as well, where she is the driving force of the film, and she's the titular role as well too. So yeah, that Meryl Streep, she had it from the beginning, folks. It didn't take a while. There was no learning curve. She had it from the beginning. She was all that's why she's the GOAT, you know?
Fascinating last name that just makes it sound like it could be 1,000 different things. Silkwood.
Silkwood.
No, I thought you meant Streep. I was like, huh, never
I
thought
mean,
about
Streep's a
it.
kind of interesting name, but Silkwood, it could be a romance where
Could be
it's
about
like
a rock and
they
roll
live
band.
in
True.
they live in Silkwood, Kentucky, and they're falling in love.
Yeah.
Be a
Wow.
music biopic about a rock band in the
It's just
70s.
it's like so contradictory. It's like like a very visuals, like silk and wood are two very like opposing feelings, which is
Very
interesting.
much so.
Soft, hard.
Yeah.
But then also too, I mean, you could say it's like this woman fighting the machine in a way too. Like, not to, have to make her last name
But I would say
tie into the
mostly,
theme of this
most
film.
importantly, it is her last name.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly why they chose the title.
Yeah. You think so?
What do
Yeah.
you think it'd be titled? Because I have a hard time believing that this. Well, maybe because
Oh,
she was
man.
actually kind of famous at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this
Yeah.
isn't too far off from when that actually happened. But yeah, I've have a hard time believing that they would name it that now. Do you think?
Oh man.
I mean, they
I
did
don't
it with
know.
Aaron Brockovich.
That's true. That's true.
That's true. I mean, well, they called it Dark Waters.
They should
Yeah,
call
'cause
it.
nobody knows who that lawyer is.
Exactly. They don't know. They just see, oh, it's Mark Ruffalo.
They called it A Better Man.
They called it A Different Man. Yeah, they're just coming up with, man, we really just suck at titles nowadays and trailers. We're just not inventive anymore, guys.
I'm over here. Just the gears are turning and thinking of a title for this.
I know,
thing.
I know you are, and this is the bad thing is you gave him a prompt, and
I
now
know,
he's
sorry.
like going to straight up be thinking about this all episode long. We're just going to get a random title about 45 minutes from now, and he's going to be like, "It's this," and I'm like, "What are you talking about, Jay?" Oh, it's another title, you know.
I
Yeah.
think something along the lines of like Dark Waters, like I don't know, Rubber Gloves.
It would be like very sensational. It'd be like contamination.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
Contamination
that's
Station.
That's a good
You know
one.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Radiation.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Plutonium.
we're really off the rails.
Plutonium
internal
disaster.
plutonium something.
The
Or,
trip to
what
the trip
about-
to
what about-
Washington.
What about
you know what I
cooked?
mean?
Just call it cooked.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Be sure to use the hashtag cooked
my
when you
God.
see it.
Make sure you
It would
send
star
us-
Ariana Grande.
Oh my God, no, not Ariana.
Her
Grande.
social following is just huge.
Sadly, I think
mean,
Ariana Grande,
I-
good in Wicked.
I
by the
would
way.
love to see Saoirse Ronan in this. Actually,
Mm,
I think
Oh.
Saoirse.
she's
would
actually a
be
pretty good
great.
comp.
Saoirse
She
is a
came
good
out of the
comp. She
gate.
just hasn't won anything yet,
Yeah,
but she should have.
perennial loser.
Well, that's because
Saoirse Ronan.
here's my hot take on Saoirse Ronan. I think part of the reason she isn't winning anything is because she's acting in movies that Meryl Streep would have been in the 1980s.
That's true.
Like
Mm.
all of her movies are these old like period pieces, like kind of like old school romances that feel like she's not in a substance, you know what I mean? She hasn't been in anything that's very like flashy.
I was literally about to say, is she Meryl's substance clone?
Well, no, I mean, there's,
Kind
well,
of.
no, I mean, the comparison I've always heard is Kate Winslet, but at least Winslet has some diversity, some bigger things, some taken some, like, you
Winslet
know,
takes risks that Meryl
she
doesn't
does.
take.
Yeah, no, for sure. And but like also, Saoirse needs to be in like a Silkwood, where she is the driving force. Like, I mean, I know the Outrun is. I think that's exactly what you're trying to say, Izzy, which is like the
Yeah.
Outrun is a movie where like Meryl would be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna pass on that one, but you can give it to somebody else, and I'll make Silkwood, which feels like much more vital and more important, and we just don't. But we don't. I don't know. Like Saoirse should have
Who won the Lady Bird year?
Frances McDormand
Ah, Saoirse should have won.
for Lady
Yeah.
Bird.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think the Little Women year is like right there, and we had to
Yeah,
give it.
she's great
I
in Little
mean,
Women.
either one I would take.
We had to give, and I think Brooklyn too. I'm one of those guys. I'm not a Brie Larson fan on that.
Mm.
I like Brie Larson as an actress, but I do not a big Room guy.
You know, it would be cool if
Are
Brie
there big
Larson
room
made like a
guys?
I
real
think so. I
movie
think that
again.
people like no, people are like really passionate about that movie. They're really
Really?
yeah, people love Room because like I guess it's the only thing that Brie Larson's done that's good in the last 15, 20 years,
It's
it seems like.
crazy.
Short
Her
Term
career
12
is
was good.
crazy.
Yeah,
Short Term
but that's
12
like
rules.
and that was like but that was like right before Room, right?
21 Jump
Yeah.
Street is good.
That's true. You're saying a lot of movies though that were right before that
I know.
Oscar win.
They're all like 10 years
She's
ago.
now in Fast and Furious movies and Marvel movies.
You know who's
So,
in Room?
who?
Flounder
Oh God,
from The
no,
Little Mermaid.
no.
Jacob Tremblay.
We're not doing the scuttlebutt stuff today. You know better than that. Uh. Anyway, back to Silkwood. Let's talk about this movie, please. Jay, talk about it.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean I love how the kind of industrial intrusion of the environment is sort of omnipresent. I love when she goes to go see her kids, and there's once again like this other giant plant where you can hear this industrial hum basically at all times while she's with her kids. And it's just like she can't escape this corporate monolith, this industrial monster that is destroying their town, and in the case of her company, killing its their employees. And there is something so harrowing about sort of the macro elements of the movie, but at a certain point, if you're in that environment, you almost have no choice but to kind of bury it, especially in this world where you got to make rent, right? You People have to work for this company. I love the line at one, but there's actually a couple. I'll just say two lines that I absolutely love. The first one is when they accuse Karen of contaminating the facility. And then one of the union guys is like, hey, the company's got to blame somebody. Otherwise, it's their fault. It's like, oh my God.
Because she
What
took
are
like
we doing?
because she took the weekend to be with her kids. Well, something happened, so we got to blame you, right?
It's crazy. And the other one is when she's really kind of working that she's really focusing on exposing the company after they've won their union vote, and the coworker is like, why don't you focus on upping our wages instead of focusing on what is none of our business?
Mhm.
It's like there's nothing we can do about it at this point, and this is the uphill battle that we'll be fighting anywhere. It just so happens that this is the most extreme version of that, and I might as well get paid more while I'm still around, essentially, is what that is saying. And that is dire.
Yeah.
And that I think is something that the movie communicates really well.
I really appreciated like the basically what you're saying, like the dissociative element of like all of
Yes.
what all of her coworkers were going through, because you literally hear one of them being like, "Oh, I think I have cancer," or like my daughter has cancer. Like we know there's like active death occurring, and yet they're still like so convinced that it's actually better to just get like a higher hourly wage. Like their personal safety is just like taken as like already a foregone conclusion that they're going to die. which is
Canaries
so
in the coal
sad.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why like the most frustrating character in the film for me, obviously, is the Craig T. Nelson character. This person that is such a bootlicker and is such a has accepted that there's no everyone around her as she's starting to pick up this fight. They've made a decision as to where they stand on her, based off of either what she said or what the lawyers have said or just their own situations. Nelson just seems fully on, like at times, like that the
But
company
it's
is,
sort of the same thing where it's like, I
yeah,
gotta keep my job,
yeah, but it's so he's
obviously, especially in
so
this
Like
town
such
where
in
a
the
there's
middle
company guy.
nothing
management
else to
concept.
do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like it's such a without saying it, it's such a snitch mentality to be able to, and that's why, there's that scene where he goes at the end to the house or whatever, and Kurt Russell punches him right in the face, and you're just like, yeah, you have no
It's
business
a
coming.
good lick.
No, yeah, he does. There's no business for you to come around here. You've kind of actively wanted this. Like that's the thing about it that is really interesting, the pushback that she gets. That yeah, it was harder to watch this go around, just watching human beings accept defeat. We are usually, beings that want to find an answer or find a solution. That's what she's trying to do throughout this, while also still, like I said earlier, she is accepting that she wants to work this job. Like this is the job she has to do to, support her life, maybe give a little bit when she sees her kids, whatever the case may be. And it's a small enough town where this is it. Like there's nothing else really remotely that'll probably pay well that's around this area. But that still doesn't mean that you have to accept the conditions the way they are. And slowly as the film goes on, as her fight is growing, the pressure and the acceptance of others as her as a villain is far more easy to put on her shoulders as an individual, much like to the line earlier in the film. She misses a day, she's the one to blame. And the company is never at fault there. They're never, I think the scene that really like made me kind of angry was the Bruce when she comes off of like a break and Bruce McGill is sitting there with Craig T. Nelson. And she shows up like, I guess, 10 minutes late. And she goes, and he looks right at her and says, like, you're 10 minutes late. You didn't tell them that shit in Washington, and really like throws this like, yeah, that's all you care about at this point is that, to find any little, mistake that she makes, even though that's not the point of like, the point is it's like, you should be doing your job. They start radiating her house later in the film. You can't trust. She can't trust that anything that is being told to her in that moment, at least for me, I wouldn't trust the readings or anything that those guys have been telling me because in that moment she realized is that they have all the power, they have the tools. So even if these machines have been manipulative in turns or they planted it themselves, by the end she's going to just be like, what do I need when she says, what do I need to sign? And what do I need to say? It's such a gut punch. And Meryl delivers it so perfectly because you've just seen her fight and fight. She's lost the love of her life. She's at odds with Cher, who we have to talk about here in a minute and talk about Dolly as a character. She's at fight with pretty much everybody in this film outside of like the lawyers. And by the end, she's has to accept it.
I mean, there's probably an
Well,
argument that she gets exploited by the union a little bit as well.
Oh,
Oh,
totally.
absolutely.
I think it's important to what I like about this film though is that she doesn't start the film being like this white knight, you know what I mean? It's like
No.
she's watching somebody else get showered down after they got contaminated and she also like kind of doesn't care because it just happens. And then it's when it happens to her and she starts to take more seriously what that actually means that it kind of awakens her awareness of like what she's actually putting herself through every day. And I think like I like that because I think it just is more realistic. Like we see so many people inspired to become activists by the things that they just like experience in day-to-day life. Like you don't just take up a cause because like it's morally the right thing to do most of the time.
Yeah,
It's how life happens, you know?
people usually jump into causes not when they see somebody else get in tragedy, but when it literally affects them. Like that's
Yeah.
I mean, being the first person to make that leap
it's tough.
it's hard.
Yeah, totally. But like, yeah, I think that's what I appreciated about it too.
No, because you
But
get a
I think
sense
like
of
you have to acknowledge the kind of personal fear that drives a lot of that activism and like the gravity of understanding that it requires to like push you to actually do something.
oh yeah, because like the movie doesn't, like you're saying, Izzy, it doesn't start off as this political thriller. It starts off really as a slice of life sort of film. It starts off with like they're all going to work. Like all three of them are getting in the car. They're all, you got Dolly and you got Drew and you got Karen. You're like, what is this dynamic? And like they're kind of like this makeshift family, and they're working in this small town and she's just trying and she's got a great relationship, it seems like, with all of her coworkers because she's not ruffling feathers. She's just trying to get to that weekend with her kids. And they all go up there and like we spend like 30 minutes of this film just establishing her as a mother, her as a worker, her as someone in a relationship, her as a friend. And so I think that that's like for me, very purposeful move by Nichols to use like a fourth of this movie to, not just jump right into the report and who she is and this famous person, it's to paint that this could happen to anyone, and it's happening to her because it one, it literally does happen, but you see, like you're talking about, the desensitization of like she sees somebody else getting scrubbed down and scream, and it could be her any day, and she knows that. They all know that, but they just keep going on like I got to punch in the clock and not because I've got a place to be, or she's in that lunch scene and she's like trying to like get a lunch, or she's trying to like swap out the dates and everything. She's living a normal life. It isn't until, like we've said, it affects her, and then she really starts to pay attention, and then it kind of opens up, and then that's where she has the push and pull with Drew, with Russell, who I think is really good in this movie at being being this person that is seeing all this change happening around him, and he does not have a single way for himself to be able to communicate that, and speaking to just a lot of those people's insecurities in that town, of not just what he's dealing with Karen, but then also Dolly's character, having a lesbian relationship, a lesbian affair in their house. Like for him, he doesn't handle it well.
He just drinks a lot.
And he would drink a lot. Most guys in that situation back then probably would not have handled it even well at all, or even come back, because that's the thing about the second
Dare I
act
say
of the film.
most guys now?
Yeah, probably most guys now. You're not. Yeah, I'm probably more optimistic now.
I would do great. Come on.
You think you would?
Aw, that's
I
good
would.
for you.
I would kill it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like it really is. Like honestly, when you watch the film, you're like, this isn't that bad. Like it's none of this is affecting you. But again,
I'll tell you
it's
what's
also,
bad. That makeup job.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's tough.
You think?
I mean,
so?
that's a really funny part when
It is very funny.
she has to like drop that she works at the funeral home. Hilarious.
Nichols had a rule for Cher that she was not allowed to wear any makeup except for that part, obviously. And Cher was like, "You cannot do that to me. I cannot do that." And apparently she like did something to her eyelashes in one scene, and he was like, "Go take that off. Can't
Smart
do that."
move. Smart move to honestly just to make it be more about Dolly and not about Cher. And
Cher, let's pivot to Cher.
I
think Cher is incredible
She's
in
incredible.
this film.
I think Cher is an incredible actress.
Yeah.
And I
She
think
really
that
is.
it's like, why isn't she in things? Like, you know what I mean?
She has
Like
an Oscar.
I know. And that's also technically too, like she's playing a character that's very stripped down, and then like in the middle of that movie has a makeover and has like her kind of Cinderella moment in Moonstruck, which is a 5 out of 5 masterpiece, and I love that movie.
Well, she got this off of Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, which is a very good movie, and she's
Another
amazing
Altman
in it.
connection.
Yeah,
Well, I think she was just on the Broadway version.
She was
at
just
that
on the
point,
play.
right?
she got it off the play, and that, I mean, they made the movie after that. But Nichols saw the play and cast her off of that, and this was a very important movie for her at that point. The only we've covered, or not covered, but discussed one other Cher film, Ryan, of course, the William Friedkin Sonny and Cher.
It's true. We did do that.
Like
we did talk about the
their,
variety
their
show.
Hard Day's Night, basically.
Yeah, exactly. We did talk about that. I was like pre Boys in the Band, right? Like,
yes, that was during his like journeyman. I just need to prove that I can make a movie on time and on budget.
When you read the
era.
book, did he talk a lot about that, or did he just kind of like?
He actually did talk a lot about it because he loves Sonny and Cher, especially Sonny. He's like, Sonny is one of the few geniuses I've worked with in my career.
Wow. So just for the people keeping score at home, William Friedkin loved Sonny Bono, but he hated Al Pacino. Just putting that out there. Just wanted that, make sure we
can't even remember what that movie was called.
I would have said it's like the Sonny and Cher movie. I wouldn't even think it's.
Isn't it like something about like sunshine or flowers or something?
Now we have to do this. Now we're
Good Times.
Good Times.
Good Times.
Well,
no, maybe we were talking about titles earlier. Sure. Well, I mean, I guess if you're watching a movie with Sonny and Cher, you want to have good times. But
man, there's that video recently from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where Dua Lipa is singing with Cher, and Cher just absolutely wipes the floor with her.
Yeah,
that's tough for Dua Lipa. Look, love Dua Lipa,
a very important person for Jay.
But Cher absolutely blew her out of the water.
Yeah, and then like
dead in a ditch.
And then it didn't help for Dua Lipa that like, even though she had a really nice outfit, then Zendaya comes on the stage in this like kick-ass outfit, like, because it's Zendaya and she always looks amazing. And it's
Congrats on the engagement, Zendaya.
Yeah. Oh, are we doing that? Oh,
sure. I don't know. That's all.
I mean, listen,
carry on.
She can do things that they can't do. Like, well, maybe not Cher. I don't think Cher would be able to like have Pulitzer or Nobel Prize authors on a podcast, which Dua Lipa can do. You know what I mean?
True.
Look, if Dua Lipa wants to come on the pod, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that out there.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even congratulate Zendaya. I would congratulate Tom Holland.
I mean, great job by him.
Dude's lucky. Like, Zendaya's awesome. Like,
not only is he getting married to Zendaya, he was in Uncharted. What's better than that?
He's been on a bad roll lately, so he needs the Odyssey more than anybody else right now.
Did they already announce that? Is he doing that?
He's going to be in the Odyssey. He's going to be in Nolan's The Odyssey.
I assume he'll be the lead.
I assume he'll be.
Although some people are saying Damon is the lead.
Damon?
Hell yeah, let's go.
But I don't know.
Listen, right. I'm just going to say this, folks. Matt Damon in Oppenheimer was great. And if there's anybody that can get great performances out of their
he's great in
actors
Oppenheimer.
Is Christopher Nolan. He's going to get like fucking Tom Holland an Oscar now. You watch.
Remember when I didn't like Christopher Nolan, Ryan?
Yeah, I remember when like
that was wild.
That was a bad take.
And then he made his best 3 movies in his last 3 movies are his best 3 movies.
Yeah. Izzy, thoughts on Christopher Nolan? Are you?
I mean, I have to admit, I'm not a huge Nolan girly.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think my big contrarian opinion. Yeah, my big contrarian opinion last year was not liking Oppenheimer.
No,
but
nobody's perfect.
No, I know. Well, sad but true.
It's okay. But Jay, it goes back to what you always say. If we all liked everything, it'd be kind of a dull place.
It would.
Yeah, but
sure would.
Damn it. Well. Yeah,
but I'm down for any and all adaptations of the Odyssey, so I'm excited for that.
I'm kind of just all in on him deciding to like, I'm going to do my Ridley Scott movie, and I'm okay with that. Like because he's such a big fan of the Riddler.
He's good at spectacle.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what he'll do with that in that.
It'd be interesting to see how he adapts it in terms of like, story wise and everything. But I'm hoping
do it
for
Lerman style. Let's do Romeo and Juliet Odyssey.
That's so funny.
I'm hoping it's more of a Dunkirk approach, where it's not a lot of dialogue, but it's like a lot more. He kind of just strips it back, makes it about the visuals. Because him and Hoyte van Hoytema and Ludwig Göransson making music, like seeing that in the IMAX, we all know that's going to be good. I mean,
Romeo and Juliet's good, right?
which one are you talking about?
The Lerman. Romeo plus Juliet.
I don't think I've seen that in like 20 years.
I haven't seen that since like high school.
Yeah.
They showed that.
I don't think I have either, but I remember it being good.
I'm very hot and cold on Baz Luhrmann.
I am too, but
you loved Elvis.
I appreciate him. Look, Elvis, I've still got all the Austin Butler stock. I mean, between that and Dune too, I'm all in.
You have to
unfortunately, he is aligned with the great enemy, Darren Aronofsky.
Oh, well, yeah, that's his next movie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, he's also supposedly going to be Luca's choice to play, what is it, in American Psycho?
Didn't Brent Easton Ellis say like that's actually not happening?
I don't.
Is that?
I mean, you
real?
never know with a Luca movie.
Yeah, you never know. But I feel also like that was what he said. But then also, it's like, how much do you know of Hollywood contracts? Brett Easton Ellis. I don't know.
The only person whose word you can take at less face value than Luca is Brett Easton Ellis.
There you go.
He's our guest on the Birdcage, by the way.
But like Luca makes a movie a year now, so I wouldn't be surprised if all these things get made. It's just about timing. Mm-hmm. He's got another one coming out next year, or this year, I mean, with Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield and Iowa Debris. So
wow.
It's and Michael Stuhlbarg. I think someone described it as like his Tar, which is
baby girl Redux.
Well, no, he said it's not going to be very sexy. Yeah, which is like I don't buy that.
I don't believe him.
I don't buy that. It's got Andrew Garfield in it. You know what I mean? Nobody thought Challengers.
I watched that Florence Pugh movie. I cried my freaking eyes out.
Which one?
Oh my god! What is it called? They Live in Time.
We Live in Time.
We Live in Time.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
That made me cry. Cry. Yeah.
Andrew Garfield.
So shout out to them. Pretty exploitative movie, but it worked.
It's a movie that could make you cry, Jay.
Silkwood.
Silkwood. Yeah.
Heard of
Way
it.
to get us back on track.
Yeah, I'm good at my job. No, I wanted to talk a little bit maybe about. We were talking about Cher, and then we kind of got derailed from there. Thoughts on her in this film, guys? Because it's a pretty important character, I think.
I mean, she really does it all in this. Like she nails. She has like a couple of really good punchlines in this. I'm thinking my favorite one is when they're like, "Oh, you could be like mentally, something will happen to you mentally if you have plutonium poisoning." And she's like, "Well, that already happened." And I could just like see Elaine May writing that. I think because I think she did brush up this script.
I just love the morning after, like, because Kurt Russell and Meryl hear her in their bed, and they're like making breakfast, even though they're like showing they're making breakfast, but they're not really making breakfast. And they're like, "Well, you were loud last night," and it's like, "Well, it's not like you guys are real silent in there."
Yeah.
And then, but then when the shoe drops, man, those eggs get put in that pan real quickly. It's
great.
It's great because it's like the speechless.
The scene between her and Meryl on the porch after she leaves. Oh my god, it's tragic. Yeah. So I love the way he uses the porch, by the way. I feel like it's like it's like a confessional space. It's like anytime two characters are out there together and you know that something important is going to happen.
It was written to be an apartment. I assume maybe they actually lived in an apartment. That was a Nichols pivot, was to make it this house. A good pivot, in my opinion.
Good spacing.
Really gives it more of a sense of character.
Yeah, very, very almost like at times the spacing between the characters and way that they're in the camera, and it almost feels as if he's deliberately doing that because that's how at odds they are with these with what Karen's doing, with obviously Dolly's sexual situation, and you just feel like as if they're so closely tight together in that car and packed in the beginning of the film, and then as the movie kind of expands, so does like their space and away from each other, and then literally he leaves. We don't spend a lot of time with Dolly. She feels like an afterthought, and then we kind of come back to her where the home, like where she's not going to Washington. It's not a grand affair. Things are quite sad, and they do feel like they're at odds with one another. And that scene on the plane too is was one where there's the silence, but then the way in which like just Cher feels like just the way Nichols puts a camera there to like watch Cher's sort of facial reactions when Karen's asking her about what is it about like the lawyers are asking him about like the something that was submitted or not, and she's it feels like guilt, but then it also feels like she doesn't know, and then she's also tired, and there's just a lot of emotion. These by the time they do kind of all get back together, it's not the same than which we first found him. And again, back to what you were saying earlier, Izzy, it's like this feels so deliberate by Nichols to be able to, and by the screenplay itself too, to just to make us feel as if these characters are also living through what Karen's living through, which is this is an enormous burden and task that she is taking on, and that stress bleeds through anybody that's that's around them. And we see this a lot in movies like this, where like the spouse or the person that is around them, someone becomes obsessed with a cause and they can't handle it and they leave it. But it felt, with the addition of Dolly, this was just an added layer that you just don't normally get in a movie like this. Even back then, it just didn't. It felt so. Uh, it you could feel the burden. You can feel that weight, that responsibility, that the sadness, and then it to that porch scene, which is just. I mean, you're not crying or shedding a little tear like there. I don't know what to tell you, folks. I was a little bit of a mess during it.
Well, that makes it's so much better because specifically in the early scenes when Karen goes to see her kids and they all just go together because they're like that close. You feel the camaraderie very early on, and you feel it especially from Dolly, who has this real sense of comfort and joy in those moments where she's just so happy to be around these people that she loves. And the moment that I love so much from Cher's performance is when she sees Drew and Karen in bed after she hits the deer for the first time, and she's just so happy that Drew is back, even though she doesn't even like Drew that much. She's just like, I'm glad that there's some sense of normalcy despite the fact that things have been so crazy lately, and she plays that so well.
Yeah. There was one detail on the porch scene that I actually really liked is like, because they're sitting on the swing together, and Meryl's like, what did she say? She says like, "Oh, well, what if we ran away together?" And Cheryl's like, "Oh, together," like suggesting like, what are you saying here? And Meryl kind of like pulls away from her very briefly because she doesn't want to give her the um impression that she means something that maybe Cher thinks she means.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but like gradually as they continue talking about it, and like they never actually address it, but Meryl re-embraces her, and she becomes more like, she hugs her again and like pulls her close, and you can see like, without saying anything explicit, she's they both have made it so clear that like obviously a physical relationship between them is never going to happen, but that they love each other so much and like really respect each other as friends that like they will still be as close as they can be. And I thought that was really, it was just so like subtly done, and like they don't have to say anything, but it just works, and you can tell.
Intense platonic love is very hard to convey in a
Yeah.
movie, mostly because any love, like movies have sort of just conditioned in us this idea of romance. And so to see that in a movie is both rare and also hard to pull off. And Nichols does a great job with it.
Well, even Russell was kind of confused by it because there's a moment early in the film where she says, where
Russell's confused by a lot of stuff.
he is confused by it, but there is like the confession of her saying that like she loves her. And I think that's, in other films you could take it as like a she's confessing that she loves Karen and wants to be with her. But it's that no, I love you because you make me feel safe. Like that's I think and I can be myself around you and you can trust me and I can trust you. And I think that there's not kind of that kind of honesty in movies like this where that platonic friendship is expressed in words that yeah, for someone like Kurt Russell probably wouldn't understand it. Most people don't, but people need to express that. They need to tell people like, "Hey, you are kind of very much an importance to me, and I don't know if I would be able to survive in a rural setting like this in Oklahoma." And I think that like that's the other thing that like it's in the middle of the country. It's it's in the 70s. For someone for someone to be comfortably gay in themselves around people in this area is not particularly common. And so for her to express it that way, um, that was another thing that I think Cher just totally was able to just bring to Dolly that was beautiful and just a really tender and vulnerable small moment that means much more when you think about it. Like this movie has tons of those moments in there because that's the sensibilities of it's the difference between having a journeyman director who just goes by the script and having somebody like Mike Nichols who understands character and understands how to get an actor to show that little thing to elevate material.
This is why you get the guy who made The Day of the Dolphin.
Exactly. Because that dolphin's not going to kill the president by himself. All right.
You talked
That's
about
right.
trust earlier, and another line for me that is just, it is one of those, this is not made from a journeyman director. It's like, this is somebody with a real point of view. And I'm sure it's, some blend of Efron and Nichols and probably several other people. But when they go see the specialists and they get the x-rays done and stuff, and then Drew afterwards is like, man, I love it here. I love this country. And Meryl Streep is just, there's Karen is just like, doctors are all liars. Like there's no one to trust anymore. Like I need you to understand that these people are only here to make money, and telling people that they're better is better for their bottom line. And it's just like, oh, it's just like, oh, it hurts. It hurts. And the fact that she can't trust anyone outside of her inner circle, I think makes that relationship with Dolly all the more powerful. And again, good job by everybody.
And well, I also think it's worth noting that I think that's a very cynical thing, like you said before, but also I think kind of a very unpopular thesis for a film in the early 1980s, like very early, like high point of Ronald Reagan.
Oh yeah,
We
we're in
love
Reagan
corporate
era.
America.
Yeah.
Like to portray such a cynical view of like the system coming down on you feels like it is something that would have been made in the early 1970s almost.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah. And so I think that's really interesting too, that it just kind of feels out of time in a way that it almost makes it more necessary because it feels more rare
yeah.
in its own year.
Well, then it just is. I mean, the plant itself and the way he shoots these, just the way he positions people almost in these very claustrophobic, white, plain, endless rooms. It is.
Imagine serving cake in a plutonium warehouse.
I was thinking about that.
Basically.
Imagine going to the lunchroom at the plutonium warehouse.
They're so flippant about it too. Like when she's leaving and she doesn't really like want to get
oh my
monitored or
god,
whatever.
she doesn't want to do that. I'm like,
whatever. Yeah.
And then it's almost like, yeah, why you get this multiple times? It's because then her mind's completely off of it. Like she's fighting the cause, and then it's like, well, then you're susceptible to it. But it's like when she's just like, yeah, I totally forgot about it. I was like sitting there, I was like, oh my god, the amount of red tape that would be nowadays is like because there would be cameras and all this other shit that would be with it. Like you couldn't get away with it. But yeah, they're just the place itself, the plane itself. I felt I did feel it more claustrophobic this go around. I feel like his early parts of his career, especially in like The Graduate or in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, they single locations, and they because those characters and how you're interacting with them and what they're going through, you can feel how vast they feel at times, and then you can feel how sucked in everything does. And considering just what, the tension of what she's doing and how she's, trying to navigate not only just to get information and survive on a daily basis for her job, but then also just every person. And that's there's the scene where she's there's the town hall and the lawyers come and everything, and they explain it to her, and she has people on her side. But as time goes on and people become desperate and times get tough, the more the easier a path is for people to take. The money is just easier. And so all those maybe even half-hearted supportive people of the cause, they fade away as the time goes on. And I think Nichols does a good job of sort of easily, believably, without having to do time cards or whatever, make the audience feel like, no, we have been on this journey with her, and you can not understand, but you can, I guess it could understand in that moment those people turning on that and it not feeling like, oh my God, randomly in this movie, they just didn't, in the scene before, they were like totally into, fighting the plan, and now they're not. It feels very organic is the best way to, I would say, to describe the events of everybody at the plant, and their emotions feel so real. You feel like their frustrations, or they feel their anxiety, as like by just knowing her or talking to her, they could be gone too. And especially a lot of the female characters in the plant. Like there's I forgot who it is, but there's a scene where like they just like, you got to stop this, where they just are yelling at her, like, this is like, stop, because you're threatening all of us. And then there's the moment too that is kind of a bookend from the beginning to her end, right when she gets the major contamination, is when she walks in there and she goes, I don't even know many of you in there. And it's that realization of like, people are replaceable to everybody at this company. And it's honestly surprising that they kept her there that long, given that she was causing trouble for them.
Well, it'd be a shorter movie if this took
It
place
would be.
at
No,
Boeing.
no, for sure. But I'm just like thinking about it. I'm like,
Why do these things happen? Because it's a movie, and
yeah,
it has to
no,
happen.
no, I know this for sure. Um, is there anything else you guys want to talk about or mention or haven't mentioned yet before we start wrapping this up? Izzy?
I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, I took some notes. Hold on, while I was watching, let me see if there's anything I missed.
While
Um,
she's looking at her notes, I would just like to say Craig T. Nelson has looked 55 for 40 years.
he does. You're right.
Dude has always looked like he's part of the AARP club. Jay, there is one fascinating thing, but Izzy, did you?
No, I think we pretty much got everything that I was thinking
Okay.
about. Yeah.
Jay, there is one interesting thing about this movie when I was watching it from the beginning.
I got like 15 more.
Oh, okay. Well, ABC Pictures is the production company, and
Yep.
with and 20th Century Fox. This movie being not able to find, there's another movie that sort of the ABC Pictures family had, Jay, one of your beloved favorite films of all time. That is a movie that nobody can find on physical media, and that's The Heartbreak Kid. So what I'm saying is that
Oh
we
yeah.
need to
Well,
get
now
all
the
these.
distribution for that one is just
This
like
is
out of control.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think we'll be able to solve like a lot of world problems before we get a Blu-ray of that
There
thing.
isn't. Yeah, there isn't a restoration of that. I feel like I saw it at Metrograph in New York, and I feel like the print they had was pretty bad.
I
Yeah.
saw it on like a restored, I think it was a 16 millimeter print with like really tinny audio, just because that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see it in a movie theater. And it was some guy who like found a cable copy in some warehouse and he was like, I love this movie. I'm going to restore it. And I was like, I might not ever be able to see this in a movie theater again. Might as well see it however I can.
Yeah.
And it was cool.
Do you guys think that we will? Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like we might lose that movie at
I don't think
times.
it plays pretty often actually, I think,
Yeah.
around here, but I don't know.
Somebody.
Our Russian buddies will always have it, you know.
I
Oh,
think it's
that's
on YouTube, isn't it?
Maybe. I know there are like pristine prints of that
Yeah.
movie that exist, but they're
I'm
just there's like
sure.
two of them.
I'm sure. Like the
Yeah, it's on
Academy
YouTube right
has.
now. It
Oh, it
doesn't look
is.
bad. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. I'm gonna probably.
Somebody did like an AI 4K upscale.
That's.
I
What do you,
watched it.
where,
It's,
where are you
you
at
know,
with that? Using the AI to upscale 4Ks. Where are we at with
I
that?
actually would prefer an AI co-host to you, to
Oh,
be
that's
honest.
that's fine. Well, I mean, judges, Izzy, AI co-host.
Yeah, I'm happy. There's enough of my voice out there. They could probably make up a character for me.
Okay. So you want to
Yeah.
replace yourself? I was thinking
Yeah,
you were
that's
going along with Jay and or trying to replace me here.
well,
Um,
I'll let you be the judge of that. You
well,
can figure out what you want.
that's
They should
not
do
where
that. They should do
that's
that
not
thing
where I
with
thought you were going
Izzy
with that. So,
where they do your voice, like they'll do Mr. Beast's voice, and it's like, click this link to buy a $2 iPhone. They should do that with you
the ones
for
that
your
I know.
videos.
Maybe the videos would be better.
the ones that scare me are the ones that are like they completely it looks like a real person at like a press conference or something, and like they just completely take their entire like it sounds like them in everything, and yet it completely is like for like sports, Jay, it's like, well, this person sucked last night, and it's all the things that they would never say. But like, I don't know, some of these
Or like a
videos, man,
deep fake.
it's a
Yeah.
very much a deepfake. Those deepfakes scare
Mhm.
the hell out of me.
Yeah, me too.
No, thank you, Jay. Last thoughts on Silkwood?
Yeah,
Save us.
I think there are two things I want to bring up. The first one is that this was actually like a landmark First Amendment movie
Yes.
Hmm.
where the federal court, because this thing was litigated for years and years and years by the company uh, portrayed in the film. They were like, can't do this, can't say this stuff, not allowed. This is our company, you can't do it. And then the courts came down with the ruling that as long as a film is doing factual research and really putting in the effort, this is within people's rights. And that was huge. That was really important. And it's a really interesting thing with this film in the same way that Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was basically the nail in the coffin of the code. Mike Nichols movies have been weirdly important in the culture.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing is the editing of this movie, which it's very important to note. I would argue Nichols's early films are very the way that they put it in the biography was very self-regarding, where it's all really long takes and athletic filmmaking. And in this film, it cuts a lot more often. It's kind of more traditional, I would argue, in its filmmaking, especially in its editing. But I think that is to the film's benefit. And I think especially it makes it feel less intense. If we were just staring at these people in a long takes, there is a really good long take early on in the cafeteria or the break room, where she's just going around and like talking to everybody. But most of the time, it is sort of more traditional comedy cutting, and cuts are extremely important in comedies. And I think making that change sort of shapes the rest of his career in a lot of ways. So very important in that regard as well.
Yes, sir. All right, Jay.
Yes.
Before we get out of here,
Okay.
we're going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed, Silkwood. In a segment we like to call It's an Honor to Get Nominated. Now, Izzy, you're a first time guest on here, and I'm sure you know the history of Silkwood as well as also the Academy Awards. Jay is our resident best prognosticator, all sarcasm up in the front of that. And
I'm the Oscar skeptic at the who works at the website awardswatch.com.
So we are going to test his knowledge here. In Jay, the movie Silkwood, was it nominated for any Academy Awards? And if so, what was it
I
nominated?
am almost certain it was. It is such a traditional Oscar film.
Yes, buddy.
It also has Meryl Streep in it, which is always a pretty good bet. And
That is correct. He's already off on a good roll on this.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to just because I called out the editing, I'm going to say editing.
That is correct.
Okay.
Good for you. This
I'm
is
off to a good start here.
Usually he's terrible in the text.
Oh my God. What else? I'm not going to say cinematography.
No, but I'm glad that you remembered that cinematography was a category because it's all.
Yeah, that's one I always forget, even though it's my favorite category. Like literally my favorite category.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Cher got like an ingenue nomination.
That is correct.
Like a whoa, she did it thing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh man, what else? For some reason, I don't think this got Best Picture. Did it get Best Picture?
I'm gonna lock that in. Which way?
I'm gonna say it did not get a Best Picture.
That's correct.
I'm gonna say it did not get a Best Director either.
That's incorrect.
Oh, it got Director. That's
the story's
cool.
too good. The story's too good.
Oh.
You know, coming
That
back
is
after
true.
8
Come
years.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. The
Narrative,
is,
baby.
is there.
There you go. All right.
Are there any more that it got nominated for?
Well, you're missing. Yeah, you're missing a big one.
Am I missing obvious ones?
Yeah, like the most obvious one that you already kind of stated up at the top, but you haven't actually said it.
Meryl. I mean, I
yes,
said
Meryl Streep. Well, Meryl Streep. There you go. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I thought he said that one. Not Kurt. Kurt did not get nominated.
No, unfortunately, just looking pretty does not get you Best Supporting.
I'm assuming David Strathairn got Best Hair.
Well, he won.
He won. Yeah, it was a
Famously.
weird, like, 84, they were like, this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why he never won for Good Night.
I need to
Good
bring
Luck.
that
They were
category
looking at
back.
the hair. Oh, just individual hair?
Who would have won Best Hair in 2024?
Ooh.
I gotta look up my list.
I feel like there's got to be a really obvious answer that we're just not on it.
I feel like, I mean, like Nicole Kidman and Baby Girl with that wig, because she's always got the wig.
That was a tough wig.
Is it ironic, or are you actually wanting to celebrate somebody's good hair?
I would love to celebrate great hair.
I think like Dennis Quaid's whole hair and wardrobe and the substance.
It's a pretty good one.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I think Demi, I know that's like her real hair, but like every time she like does a Cher hair move with her hair,
her and
I love
Quali.
it.
Oh,
you know what?
I got it.
Yeah.
Blake Lively, it ends with us.
Oh, for God's
Come on
sakes.
now.
No, we're not
Come
doing
on
this. We're not bringing this to the podcast.
Let's talk it ends with us. Let's talk legal situation. Okay, fine.
I think we're missing the obvious one, which is Godzilla and Kong. They both, I mean, Godzilla got pink, extensions, and I think that's worth noting.
Well, if we're going to talk about pink, I mean, like Mikey Madison for Honora's right there.
Scarlett Johansson, Fly Me to the Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Timmy in Complete Unknown is up there.
I got it. It's Anya Taylor-Joy for her hair that she had to recreate and remake in Furiosa, because she has to like put that back together.
Nick Cage, long legs.
I would take that.
Daddy.
Sebastian Stan, Apprentice.
Jason Schwartzman's hair or lack of hair in Queer. I'll do that.
This is such a good podcast.
We're
It's
the best.
amazing how good this podcast is.
Yeah, Izzy's going to totally come back.
Are there
You're missing one. I'm just going to help you out here, buddy. You're missing one, and that is adapted screenplay.
Oh, I should have known that one.
Oh wait, no. Is it adapted or is it was original? I'm sorry, original screenplay.
I should have just I don't know why. Nora, I should have known. I don't think this was based on any actual material.
No, I'm sorry.
Wait, and someone co-wrote it with her, right? Who was it?
Yes.
Alice
Arlen.
Arlen. Yeah.
Another reporter.
Yes. And so it was nominated for 5, buddy. This was the year of
This was Nora's first script.
Yes, and this was
First
the year
credit.
Terms of Endearment.
It's so wild that she was married to Carl Bernstein.
I saw him on the street
Wait,
the other
when?
day.
The other day?
Like, yeah,
This is the New York
it was
life.
crazy. I was like, I couldn't believe it because it's just so random, you know?
Did you ask him about Nora?
Yeah, I stopped and asked him all about his divorce. I was like, wow, how was that? You surviving?
You didn't ask about the marriage. You asked about the divorce.
No, I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your point of view on heartburn? That's what I said to
Oh
him.
my God. That's great. It was Terms of Endearment. This was the year also of Tender Mercies, The Right Stuff, The Dresser, and The Big Chill. I'm not a fan of The Big Chill.
Wait, there. The Dresser.
Yeah.
What is that?
You didn't watch The
I don't
Dresser
think
this
I
week?
know what that is.
It's
Is that like a
Peter-
Lion Witch in the Wardrobe thing?
oh my God. No. A Peter Yates directed film, Albert Finney.
All right, Finney. Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah. I've never heard of this movie until I just looked this up. But this is what it is. The Dresser.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not wrong. Like you guys see this as well, correct? Am I crazy?
Yeah, I'm looking
I
it
wasn't
up right now.
cheating.
Okay.
So no, I know.
Good job, Jay. Yeah, it was nominated for a bunch. Izzy, you're the guest. Would you nominate this? Would you nominate Silkwood in any other category it was nominated in, or would
Would
you
you
also
kick
give
out
it-
the Dresser?
Would you kick
I'd
out the
probably,
dress?
I'd kick out. I haven't seen The Right Stuff or The Dresser or Tender Mercies, but I'm willing to bet I'd like Silkwood more.
Do you,
So
where
I'll
are you,
pick one of them out of Best Picture.
where are you at with the Big Chill?
I like The Big Chill.
You like it?
I feel like that is one of those movies that like if we were young people in
Yeah, we would've-
1984,
we
we would
would've-
have
we
been
would've
like,
obsessed
that's
with
it.
that
That's
thing.
the
Exceptionally
movie.
boomer core. It is
Yeah.
like
Sure.
Yeah.
so boomer.
Yeah.
Terms of Endearment rules.
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
that movie, and
That's a weepy right there.
yeah, and The Right Stuff, good. Like that's a good movie. And
So
Tender Mercy.
Jack won an Oscar this year.
Jack, yes, he did.
Yeah, that's one I know.
Yes, he did. He won supporting actor. It's one of Jack's better performances too.
I mean, he's the best.
You gotta love a movie
I
star
love how
that
Nicholson just like worked with the same people and used his movie stardom to let them make the movie they wanted to make.
like, dude.
Yeah.
I love when Jack actually like, as much as I love Jack as a leading man, I love when he made choices to do supporting performances.
Yeah.
This is a fun time for him, I think.
This is such a good time.
Broadcast
for him.
News, another James Brooks.
Him
I
and Red.
love broadcast news.
Him and
I-
Reds.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Broadcast News is like one of my faves.
Yeah.
I often cite Holly Hunter in that film as maybe the greatest performance in a movie ever. I think she's unbelievable. in
And
that
you know
movie.
but you know who she lost the Oscar to?
To share.
Yeah, that was
Cher.
Cher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Cher. There you
That's
go.
a tough year for like
That's
people
tough.
fight vigorously about that year.
Yeah, that's when people get really angry about.
Because it's also Fatal Attraction, I think.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct. But then Meryl's in here. Cher won the Golden Globe for this
Good.
for Silkwood, which is crazy.
Well, who won the musical comedy that year?
Oh, that's a good question. I will look that up while you guys are talking.
Talking.
So crazy that this is also the year of Fanny and Alexander. I don't know why that's funny to me, but it is.
Golden Globes.
They just feel very different.
The Globes
Oh, wow.
nominated Kurt Russell.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
He's
big.
kind of like he doesn't leave much of an impression in this movie to me.
You don't think so?
Nah.
You're not a Russell guy.
No, I love Russell. Don't get me wrong. Christmas Chronicles, come on.
Wow, this is the year Papa Can You Hear Me lost Best Original Song. That's right. It's the Big Yentl year.
It is the Big Yentl year. Oh my God. Yeah, we're all just looking at this in time. In time.
I'm just looking at my favorite 83 flicks.
For Golden Globes. Sorry, I was trying to find.
Videodrome.
Yeah, Yentl was big.
Star 80. Goodness gracious.
Star 80 is good.
It is a great movie.
Educating Rita was
A
big.
little bit of a downer.
That's Kane and Julie Walters won for the Globes for that.
Now, this was the year that Streamers came out, which Mike Nichols famously directed for the stage to great
really?
acclaim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then another Altman Nichols connection.
Flashdance.
Streamers, that's one that's like impossible to watch too.
I do love Fanny and
Yeah.
Alexander.
What's the one? I've tried to watch his political series, the one that's like about a fake election,
Oh,
like 8 times, and I've never been able to get through it. Tanner 88.
yeah, on HBO.
Yeah, I've never been
Yeah.
able to finish it.
I've never seen it either. I think I've seen every Altman movie except Health for some reason,
Mhm.
and I've never seen Tanner 88.
Would you guys give Meryl the Oscar
Um,
over Shirley MacLaine for Terms of Endearment?
Oh no.
she's pretty good.
I mean, but that's more to me about just like Shirley MacLaine
Yeah.
than anything else.
Oh no, for sure. That's such a great performance. It's such a good movie. It's kind of an undeniable movie. And that was a directorial debut, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. He's supposed to come out with a movie this year.
That movie was made on an $8 million budget and made $165 million in 1983. And that is not an easy subject matter to watch.
Box offices used to be so crazy.
We used to be a country. That's what I'm trying to say, folks.
Wasn't like Kramer versus Kramer's like the biggest box office of its year? Like,
Yeah.
Who's Afraid
so
of Virginia
crazy.
Woolf was number 3 behind James Bond and something else I can't remember.
No, I mean, like,
so
Oh,
wild.
Thunderball and Dr. Zhivago.
Do
were
we
the
think that
two
that's
movies
why-
I was
Oh, right.
grossed by?
that's why I think in a little bit of a way, like some of these movies, they stand the test of time because like they were the biggest movies of their year. They weren't just like the Oscar celebrated movies now. You know what I mean? We don't get that anymore.
Well, that's what the Oscars used to be, was kind of the combination of the two. And now,
Well, I mean, they kind of
we
were
get
last year, I
Coda.
guess. But like, well, yeah, but then you get an Oppenheimer. So it's like,
Coda won Best Picture.
you bring this up every month.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
But we're about to have another very low box office Best Picture winner again.
Yeah.
Either in the, yeah.
Depends
Last
on
year
what it
was
is, I
definitely
guess.
an exception.
Well, if it's Amelia Perez is a streamer, if it's Conclave, like Conclave didn't do like gangbusters at the
And it's
box
also,
office.
it's like a quasi streamer.
Yeah. And then Honora did fine for what it is, but not gangbuster numbers. And then The Brutalist is not going to make a single dime for anybody.
I think it's already making a ton of money.
Is it?
It's making
Yeah.
its budget back for sure. And
Yeah.
then some. Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
that's
only in
easy.
like 3
It's-
cities.
And it's easy for it to make back the budget, Jay. It was a $10 million budget.
Well, yeah,
Like, it's-
which is actually crazy for what that movie is.
yeah. That's
But I mean, even 10 million in revenue from a movie that's been in like 3 cities and also is
that's
3.5 hours long is like crazy.
with an intermission. Like it's different
Yeah.
like than even like the
Are
big
they
mo-
doing the intermission in theaters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
had
think they made it longer.
I had a
'cause I think he
25-minute
timed it.
intermission.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
times it out for 15 minutes, but I think they're pretty much doing a half hour.
Yeah, because the lines at the bathrooms for especially the men's room is extremely long.
Well, I think theaters love it because everybody's leaving and getting a ton of snacks.
Right,
And coming
yeah.
back.
yeah.
There's always been this argument that theaters don't want intermissions because then they can show the movie less during a day, but people are going to go buy stuff, and that's the only way they make money.
I think that's only a good argument when you have like a collapsed system, like if you're doing vertical integration, where
Yeah.
it's like the movie maker also owns the theater, so they're also collecting that revenue.
Yes.
So, like,
yeah.
The theater doesn't care as long as you're buying.
I was in LA. I watched it at the Vista, and at the intermission, I bought some candy. So
That's true.
see.
So I guess it's not the theaters who care that you can't show it more. It's the studios that care that you can't show it.
Yeah, no, because they
'Cause,
want
like-
they want to dominate every screen. But
When I worked at a movie theater, I worked at a few, and what they told me when I worked there, and I don't know if this is still true, but they were like, yeah, all of our money comes from concessions. Like they barely make anything from the ticket sales. So like they don't,
Yeah.
they're just like, you got to show up and buy stuff. That's how you support the theater.
that's why these popcorn buckets are huge.
Yeah. That's why they're like, we're all just going to make you food now.
Yeah, we're just gonna like. You want a quesadilla to go with your you want to go with your drink? Like the Alamo Draft House is basically like forced them to like come and pick up your terrible paper thin pizza here
Mhm.
at the Regal.
What's the worst food the person sitting next to you could order?
I know the worst food that someone's brought
I
into
think
the
it's like a
movies.
chili dog.
It's like fish.
That'd be
Yeah, I
pretty.
don't
Oh,
know.
fish. Ugh.
Somebody brought a Subway
I was
sandwich in
so
one
repulsed by
time.
that. That might be
That
the
was the
answer.
worst. Like a deli sandwich is not like from a fast food place like Subway. Someone brought a tuna fish sandwich from Subway when I saw Bridge of Spies in college, and I maybe that's why I had a
You could get
negative
anything in
opinion on
Bridge of
that.
Spies, and I wouldn't even notice.
Well, yeah, because you love those bridges.
Well, you
Yeah,
have to be careful about what you sneak in for sure if you're at like a normal theater. I
he had
have
a
my friend,
backpack
well, my
and
friend
everything.
brought in carrots once because it's like a very innocuous snack, but you don't
Yeah,
think about how it's gonna sound
that's a
when you
loud
bite
snack.
into a carrot. Yeah, like
And they went
don't
to
think
see A
about
Quiet
it.
Place part of day one, and
Yeah,
I'll never
exactly.
forget. I'll never forget going to the Beach Bum,
oh, of course,
and this homeless man came in with a backpack,
with the movie, because like
and
that's
he pulled out. Honestly, maybe the most appropriate way to watch the Beach Bum is a homeless man walking in, sitting next to you, eating a hot dog, and leaving. Really memorable stuff.
Hmm.
probably the ticket cost more than the hot dog, too.
I'm guessing he found a
He
way to
did not
sneak in.
pay.
You
You know,
you seeing a new movie with him next week?
he's coming on the pot.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay, cool.
He's coming on for the
Um,
birdcage.
well,
Hell yeah.
hell yeah, Izzy. Thank you for coming on that note. Thank you for coming on Director Watch to this podcast. Izzy, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet? And if you could, for our listeners out there, if you can give them a recommendation of the week, it does not have to be something new. It could be something old that you've watched recently that you really would want all of our listeners to go and check out.
Wow, that's a huge question. Okay. You can find me on social media on Twitter at BK Rewind, on Instagram at BK underscore rewind, and on YouTube at Be Kind Rewind. That's my channel name. And then one movie that I would love to recommend, since we've been talking about The Brutalist a lot, but I recently watched Strozek, which is um a Werner Herzog movie from 1977. And I think it kind of has a lot of similar themes to The Brutalist. It's basically about like a guy who gets out of prison in Germany, and his life kind of is like falling apart. And so he decides to move to the US and kind of discovers like some negative things about the immigrant experience. But it's just extremely well done. And I loved it. And I think those two pair really nicely together if you're interested in that subject matter.
I'm in big brutalist mode
Hmm.
right now. So anything.
Spell that?
It's Strozek.
Mm,
It's on Tubi. So it's
Tubi.
free to watch.
Oh, you gotta love it
Love-
too.
It's
love
like an hour.
some-
It's like an hour and a half. It's great.
Oh.
Classic Herzog quickie.
Yeah, there you go.
We love
Jay,
it. Yeah.
same stuff, buddy.
Letterbox J Ledbetter, Twitter at Mr. J Ledbetter. Recommendation of the week. I'll kind of draft off of Izzy on this one and say Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Mhm.
My wife has requested a Harry Potter rewatch for January, and I obliged. And it really is remarkable the kind of upgrade from the first two Harry Potters to.
So you're
Azkaban.
saying that this is the brutalist of the Harry Potter series?
It does, in fact, remind me of the Brutalist in that. Come on, you can do this, Jay. You got this. It doesn't really remind me of that because I've only seen the first half of the Brutalist.
That's true.
No, I look, Cuarón is like a real director coming off of Chris Columbus. You know, you don't have much place to go but up. But it feels just like a much more mature, grown-up movie. And my hot take is that Gambon is the better Dumbledore, which a lot of people disagree with, but I think he's great.
Yeah, Gambit is the better Dumbledore. He's
A
also
lot of
more.
people don't like that book.
Yeah.
Purists are not into that take.
Oh,
But
get
how
over.
is I don't there are several examples of where I don't remember the other actor's name, but where he like very explicitly does not do what is said
Richard
in the
Harris.
book. Richard Harris,
Yeah.
right?
I just couldn't see Richard Harris doing the action sequences that
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
later on, it would be impossible.
Yeah. It's yeah.
But-
Gambit's good.
He's good. I agree.
Yeah. It's also like not everything has to come from the book. It's a movie.
No, we could have a whole conversation about that.
I've kind of wanted to do a rewatch, but the wife is sort of the wife
Anti.
yeah, she's anti. She's
Mm.
anti. She's
Still
always
haven't
been.
seen those Secrets of Dumbledore.
Oh, you never seen The Secrets?
I never learned the secrets.
You want to know?
He's a super cool guy who never did anything wrong.
Sure. All right. Yeah, my wife is the only person in probably the world of our age group that's never read the books, and
Just one of the most important works of fiction of my life for sure.
got us
I
all to
was
read.
the
I
perfect
think.
age. Yeah.
No, I'm being dead serious. I think
No,
that
I'm
book's
not.
what got
I'm
us
not-
all
I'm
to
not
read.
kidding. That
Yeah.
Magic Treehouse. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
Magic Treehouse?
It's like these kids go inside a treehouse and they basically get to time travel.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Agreed.
Izzy, have you not gone to the Magic Treehouse?
Well, I must have forgotten about it. I did it in the future, so I haven't done it yet.
Oh yeah.
this is-
It's
she's
like
in
a
a-
tenant.
You know what I
It's a
mean?
tenant.
She's in a
situation.
temporal pincer movement right now.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
going
yeah.
backwards.
It's like when
like a Ben Budden situation. You
it's
know
like
what I mean?
when Robert Pattinson is like, "I've been your best friend this whole time, bro."
Yeah,
Yeah,
we get up
You
to
just
some
don't know
stuff.
it yet.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we also have the main show that's released every Monday. iTunes and Spotify 5-star reviews. We greatly appreciate it. While you're over on the website, please sign up for the newsletter. It's the best place to get all of our news, reviews, interviews, and podcasts all in one place. Recommendation of the week. I'm going to do something that we usually never do, Jay. I'm going to recommend a movie we've actually done an episode on.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good times.
because Izzy's right. Like, The Brutalist is on top of mind, and everyone keeps talking also about my favorite
Brutalist.
And so they keep comparing his movies, this movie, to my favorite director, who is Paul Thomas Anderson. And so I was on a plane recently. I watched There Will Be Blood again, and
Good film.
just an impeccable plane movie. I was laughing.
Impeccable plane movie.
Yeah, I was having a good time. It was good vibes on the plane. You know what I mean? And
I don't know about all that, man.
I think if like a comfort movie, if
I
you
guess
can watch it
I guess any movie that you've seen 100 times is a good plane movie.
yeah, it's a damn good plane movie. I had a fun time with it. I was laughing way too much.
Yeah, that's where you and I differ a little bit. Is you think that movie is hilarious?
I think
and
that movie's
I
yeah.
don't.
I think Paul Thomas Anderson's movies,
I don't
all of them
remember
are.
laughing a lot. I'll be honest.
I have a sixth sense of humor.
I think The Master is very funny.
I laugh at The Master. I laugh at Phantom Thread.
Funny.
Phantom Thread is like a straight up almost pure comedy.
I do
It's
laugh a
very funny.
lot at There Will Be Blood and also No Country for Old Men. So I'm maybe I'm a sick.
No Country for Old Men. I'm just going to disagree with that one. Anyway, if I can interrupt you,
Yeah.
Izzy, thank you so much for coming on. It's
Okay.
so
Oh, my
awesome when
pleasure.
Ryan tricks like a smart, knowledgeable person to come on this podcast.
Well, you didn't do that episode. You just got a very average person to come on the podcast
Oh,
No,
come on.
that-
of her
no.
own free will.
No. We thank you, Izzy, so much for coming on, and hopefully we can get you on here in the future again. Next week, we will be back. We will be continuing our Mike Nichols movie series with a review of Working Girl. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you once again, Izzy, and we will see you all next time.